Well, we don't have four. So, and you don't think that we're getting Jason, Matt, what about Cameron?
Although I haven't heard back from Cameron or Jason on whether or not they can or can't come, but Matt did hit me and told me that he was gonna have a difficulty doing it. So if we're just stalling just to buy time for stuff that we need to vote on, I was mentioning to Fallon when I was getting set up that I did want to get our discussion going about the edits to the grant program. I'm aiming for us to have something complete by our November meeting. That way it can go through the whole council process and be approved for the beginning of the year of launching that new program.
That's right.
We can start the discussion tonight, have everybody kind of read through it, and any edits or anything that we have, I mean, you can send it my way, and then I can just do like track changes and put everything in there, and then we can present whatever our final iteration of that is. That's kind of the thought process behind that.
That's good. Yeah, I know because we keep pushing that off, so. Yeah, that's good. Well, I mean, we might as well, it doesn't seem like we're potentially going to get a quorum, so why don't we start the meeting here at 5:34. Doesn't look like we have anyone, we don't know here. We'll skip the approval of minutes, no public comments. 2024 meeting calendar, is that a voting? Is that a voting item?
Or is that we get informed? Sorry, well, I am here. Oh,
Yeah.
they're looking, you just walked in.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, so you can just, now we can vote on next.
Yeah, all right, well, let's take a step back then. We have the minutes from the August meeting included in the materials that Sierra sent. So I'll make a motion that we accept those as emails.
There you go.
Second by Cameron, okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Hi.
Who's abstention? Okay, so moved, great, all right, now moving back to the meeting calendar. Is it just an FYI?
This is something that just moving forward so that everybody's on the same page. Yearly, we will review what the weeks are and give them to the city clerk. We are the first ones to do that. She just wanted, just to make it clean across the board and so there's no confusion, and when they're trying to schedule stuff, they would like us to do that moving forward.
Sorry, I have a quick question about these. I don't know if you're going to answer that. What does the red highlighted dates mean?
So the red highlighted dates are the dates where I didn't know if we wanted to keep those because they were bumped up against the holiday, or if we wanted to reschedule those for another time, or maybe cancel them and then have a special meeting if we need a special meeting for those months. Oh, and November isn't a holiday, I just won't yet.
Okay, so
It's right by the election.
Sorry. I mean, you guys can hold the meeting without it. In case you want to. Just throw that
you
out there.
plan your calendar out pretty far. You know, November 6th of 24, you're not gonna be here, wow, good for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I vote for canceling and scheduling a special meeting if needed.
In November, oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no, for all of those, because we've done fairly well with doing that. Like we had a special meeting in July. I'm sure we've had several special meetings when we've canceled. So I think we're fairly good at finding time for the meetings. So without nailing a date and time down today, perhaps we just cancel them, and then as we get closer, we schedule the special meeting if needed. But bumping up against the holidays, especially the 3rd and the 3rd, I think that'll be interesting.
You guys want to travel or something?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so Margaret with the motion to cancel the reds and schedule special meetings as needed. Michelle for
I'll
the
second.
2nd.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that?
Just one comment, might want to spell Wednesday correctly.
Oh, yep, got you.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved, great. Great, all right. So then that moves us to old business, business outreach update from commissioners. The only thing I have to report on that side is I did speak with Ally on Thames about her ribbon cutting. I know that's later on in the agenda, just to let her know that it's going to be delayed until at least the end of this month, if not a little bit further. But that's the only business I reached out to. Did any other commissioners have contacts with anybody?
I know.
So the only contact I've had is working with Margaret Rion to kind of get the process to push her grant application over the finish line.
Yeah, and thank you, Margaret, for coming out to the council meeting, to represent her for that. Appreciate it.
No problem.
We get a chief up to.
We don't, but I would just say Matt did confirm that he reached out to all the package stores,
Oh.
let them know who the Blue Run people were to make sure. And just talk to them about the event and everything that was going on to make sure that they were kind of prepared for what was expected, so that was great.
Good, I'm glad they made them onto the postcard.
There is no grant update because Aaron could not come tonight. So we can move on to the grants.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, you wanna give us a rundown?
So one thing that is not on here, but I definitely will kick it off with this, is that Buford's was approved by the city council last night. So we are moving forward with the processing of that reimbursement check. The next steps will be scheduling the photo op and you and the mayor presenting the check. Anybody else is welcome to come, but we are looking between September 18th and 21st. There's a little bit of a delay of getting the check because of a holiday submission and stuff, so availability then our kind of windows of what we're looking at would be more welcomed. And oh, Margaret, I was gonna ask you, you worked with her on a statement.
Yeah, I already emailed it back to you.
Oh, awesome, thank you, appreciate that. And so that will then, the picture and the statement will go into the newsletter that's released next month.
You may want to correct, I found a small grammatical mistake in my statement. I think I corrected it verbally in line the other day, but that would be it.
Okay, I'll double check that.
Thank you.
Nothing else with Buford's, but are you guys welcome? This may trigger. Kimberly Draylick from the day was keeping track of this program and at some point in time was going to do some type of article on it. And she may want to reach out to the commissioners about this. Is that okay? Is everybody open to that? Her reaching out if it be. Getting ahead, so.
Fine with me, yeah.
Fine with me.
And then I actually should do a Facebook post too. So the other applications I want to talk to, so first is CJ's Laundromat. They replaced their awning that has been completed. They have checked all the boxes for the requirements of what they are supposed to do, and they are asking for, or he is asking for the full $2,500 for reimbursement. The total cost of the project was $3,934.95. There are, you can tell, makes a big difference of the before and after pictures of that laundromat. It's nice that he even included the business name into that installation. You guys can see the receipt, and that has been paid. And kind of just all the general background stuff, building permits.
He's gonna get quite the savings on power because it offers shade directly into that.
Yes, that is one of the biggest, biggest reasons, or yes, one of the reasons why he wanted to get this installed.
Okay.
So for you guys to see if this is applications eligibility, if it is in alignment with our program, and if we recommend the 2,500 reimbursement to council.
GU, it seems like they're satisfied with whatever his result was on the accounts. It seems like from the email chain.
Yes,
Okay.
so he, yes, he's established a payment, plan with them,
Okay.
and he made his first initial payment, so he is in good standing with them as of now.
Okay. So it's good standing then. I mean, it seems like the requirements are all checked off. So, I mean, it looks like this is one of the points of the program. So I'll move that we move this forward to committee of the whole first, right? And then to council.
Mhm.
Yep. All right, so I'll make that motion. Second, okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Okay, so moved. Great. All right, so CJ is approved by us. Recommended for the fourth.
Okay, so then this will go to September's committee of the whole. So we'll just get that. moved in. Appreciate it. So next we have, Barking Pumpkins, love the name, but, they are associated with the attorney's office that is on Taconic Road. They did all of the siding of 126 through 128 Peconic Road, but they are truly only giving, they broke down their payment as what the facade cost, and then are asking for a reimbursement towards that, not to the whole project. I just wanted to explain that they did do the whole house. They're asking for 2,500, of which the facade would have cost them $3,888. The entire project has cost them $26,200. You can see, like, before it was kind of just a red and white backdrop. Now you can see that they have switched it to a blue facade with yellow sides. This is also the same location as Buford's, just the property owner making an improvement. The thing that I wanted to note with this application is that they still owe me proof of payment, so they gave me a copy of a check. But it's just the front of a check. It doesn't really give any information of the proof of payment, so they are working with the contractor to get that. So that is one thing that is outstanding. And also, just double check. In regards to their permit is not yet closed. Because they pulled the permit for the entire job, and the job is being held up because in the back, they have to replace the utility meter, and that is on back order, so they're waiting for it to come in. But the facade is done, just that we don't know when the meter's gonna get here or anything, and since it's in the back of the property, and I believe I provided some images of that as well. Yes, you can notice in the images, the utility box is kind of uncovered. It doesn't have the rest of the siding. So they're still working on that, and then once that is in, they'll be able to close up the permit. So there would be a contingency, or not a contingency, an exception that is being requested for this application. And then a contingency for the proof of payment.
The only thing, I assume that the building inspector hasn't signed off on anything yet, or has he signed off saying everything else is good except for the electrical?
Well, there's no way for him to,
I just don't want, like, we're waiting on the electrical, but then if we move this forward, we assume that everything's fine with the work that they did on the facade. That's the only question, so I mean, we could put it forward saying, the contingency that they get the final approval. But, if it's on back order anyway, I have a feeling that, it's gonna be probably our next meeting by the time they get it. And then by that time, hopefully the check is paid and, I don't know, what's the feeling of everyone else? Do you want to approve it with the contingency that they get approval from the building inspector and we get proof of payment, or wait until one or both of those is resolved?
I do agree that like there's outstanding things, and like if we wait till next meeting, it's not like it's gonna put a significant hold on it, because clearly there were pretty holds on their side. So I would definitely see like just postponing it and waiting till next meeting and see where the project is at that point.
Or where the documentation is,
Yeah,
because it looks like the project is mostly done, except for those.
okay. So we will hold on this one until the next meeting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you speak to them, just say everything looks fine, but we want to make sure that we're meeting our, our program requirements. Before pushing it forward.
Okay. So then with that, we can move forward to any of the edits that we want to discuss in the program policy and procedure.
Sure. Okay. Do you want to touch base on the other two, just so, because I feel like this is gonna be the longest part of the meeting, do you want to touch base about the programming?
So, the Bruins are the help that I need for stuffing, so they can postpone that till after we're all done. But for Ally on the themes, I did want to talk, start to figure out date for when we wanted to do that. It can be end of September, early October. I have made the mayor aware. He just needs a date and time when he needs to be there. I have access to his schedule, and he's also gonna reach out to Heather Summers to have her meet, and do her thing for it as well.
I'm thinking, just because Ally seemed pretty flexible, if we want to try to do this along with the presentation of the check for Buford's, that could potentially work. If if we want to sort of have an economic development afternoon,
Okay.
that could work pretty well. And then, hopefully we can get, more commissioners there if we can do multiple events on the same day. And I think it should work for Ally. Made it seem like she's pretty much available. So if we find a time that works for Margaret of Buford's as well, and we can do both on the same afternoon or something, that would be ideal.
All right, so afternoon. What time does Buford's close?
Typically during the week, they close around 1.
Could be late morning. Yeah, that might be better for Ally. As long as it's together and we're not trying to pull people multiple times during the day, then hopefully we can get a better.
1 to 2.
So. Late morning, so you said that would work for Ally as well?
She seemed to say, I mean, she said, like, as long as she has enough time in advance, she's usually around.
Okay.
Because she lives above, I believe, this month, so.
All right, and then for that, what are we know the mayor, and we'll try to get Heather Summers here as well.
I would say, I mean, you and Fallon went to those ribbon cuttings. What elements of that would you think we should bring to this type of event? Understanding it's more low key than what they, with the chambers.
It was really short, like it
Yeah.
was simple, like they
Right.
said, everybody come outside, they took a ribbon, one person held it, cut, we were
Right.
back inside, so.
Yeah. I mean,
They gave a little speech before, but, and then everybody just mingled too,
Yeah.
they just had snacks and hors d'oeuvres and people just was able to talk.
It's maybe like
sparkling cider and, you know,
Mhm.
like a tray of hors d'oeuvres or something like
Yeah.
that, you know? I wonder if that'll be good
Yeah.
enough. I mean, if it's just some commissioner, the mayor, Ally, and potentially Heather Summers as well, you know, that's not, I think, one nice tray of like cheese and crackers or something like that, you know, yeah, I think that should be fun. I think, you know, the fact that we're doing it in general, I think they're pretty appreciative of, so any little thing, I'm sure would be appreciated.
Alright, so we'll do something late morning, some type of some cider might be good, especially since we're getting close to fall. And then some cheese and crackers.
Are you giving her a certificate?
We do have, yes, so we do have certificates, we
Yeah.
have been giving out. Do I have them on the- So we have. Let's see. So Lorero opened up
Oh, that looks nice.
yeah.
Alright.
and we were able, oh, hold on, Margaret, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Love
I was
to-
like looking, do I have something? Yeah.
Like what? Alright, so, yes, and then you just can't, there's the mayor signed it and there's like this golden stamp thing that they put in that
Oh, nice
empty
little seal.
space at
That's
the
great.
bottom.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I think that's nice.
So we have this one, we're giving another one to Outer Light, for the mural on the 15th, and then I will do another certificate for Ally on the themes. We are writing a little bit of a message under the bottom of it, so if there's any like history things or any information you can pull from her that we can kind of personalize it to her business, her experience, or why she's starting a business in the city, that would be great, because we can just fill that in.
Sure, I can call her to talk about the date, you know, whenever I think that, yes, I would say out of that group, she's probably the most flexible, so we'll go to her sort of last.
Okay.
Definitely. And I'll talk to her about that.
Okay.
And maybe once people see that on social media, some of the other people I called to do ribbon cuttings may be more interested, so we'll see.
Building moments, huh?
Yeah, we're good.
Alright, so certificate, boom, 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 late morning, alright, I'll follow up with the mayor. Anything else we want for, oh, and then advertise, ooh. It doesn't give us very much time to start advertising for it though. And then who would we be trying to invite? Like, we wouldn't be able to include it in the newsletter because they've already went out, the next one's gonna go on to the end of the month. I did like the idea of doing them both at the same time, but I don't want to make Margaret wait longer than necessary.
That being said, the Margaret I mean, we can give her the reimbursement, you know, and then she can get the actual check, and then we can always wait on the photo op. You know, like, and get her, I think what she cares about is getting the money, you know,
Mhm.
we can get her the physical check, the small one, and then do the photo op, I think, down the road. I don't know, Smarter, you think any different?
No, I agree. She's not, yeah, she's not even really excited about a photo op, but I think that's the best way to do it. Just with everything going on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that piece is fine, like the actual handing over of the check, I think is fine for us to just do as soon as we can, to get her that money, and then we can do
Okay.
the photo op later. And so, yeah, we can plan for maybe early October or something like that, might be a better timing to try to get it in this month.
Alright, so as soon as I can get the check, you guys approve me just giving it to her, and then we'll do the photo op
Later, right?
the same time we do the ribbon cutting.
Yeah, right, I mean, it's similar, it's not like we're actually opening these businesses with the ribbon cutting, they've been open for a while, so I think it's sort of it's just a symbolic, you know, same thing.
Alright, so we said early to mid-October.
Yeah, somewhere around there, you know, before it gets too cold.
All right, I will follow up with you guys on that. Thanks for that.
Anything else before we jump into the policy and procedures for the grant program? Okay, all right, so if we go into the document, which Sierra did include in the email. We've talked about, as we've gone through these applications, a few items that we noticed as potential improvements. Some that come to mind immediately is number one, making this at least partially a matching grant. As we've seen with some of the more recent submissions, there is a little bit more investment from the business owner side, but some of the more initial or some of the applications that we've seen in the past, we've been essentially paying for the entire project, which is okay in some regards, but at the same time, we've noticed that, it's somewhat convenient that the amount just happens to exactly match the amount of the grant. So, I think it's a question of how we want that to be set up, and probably the biggest discussion we need to have is, do we want this in fact to be a matching grant, meaning that to achieve the full $2,500 reimbursement from us, it needs to be a $5,000 project? Do we want to, create wording that, it needs to be like a, $3,750 project, and they need to put up like, a certain percentage of the total amount? So I guess just open it up to discussion as to how we feel about, matching, and then to what extent. Thoughts, comments, Sierra, in your conversations with business owners?
I would just point out, not that I'm trying to pick at your idea, but we had one application that matched line for line. All of our other applications didn't.
Okay.
So like Buford's was under, and even Working Pumpkins, which is under consideration right now, was over. CJ Laundromat was over. So just to push back a little bit, I think it still would be nice to have some type of matching component, but it's kind of like, is it a requirement, or is it something that may naturally kind of happen anyway?
My concern I think we should have some sort of matching. I think it's a great idea. But I think when we're considering like at what balance point for that matching is like barrier to entry, like our business is gonna think it's worth it if they need to make like $5,000 project to get 2,000 back, kind of thing. So I think it needs to be kind of like a scaled back kind of percentage wise, just so it's easier for them to hit that mark. So they're not de-incentivized from taking that money.
Yeah, I wonder, if it's, the business owner must put up, must be 25% of, the total or something like that, and that's at least has some sort of, amount. We could still be paying 3 times the amount they are. So that might be a good trade-off, but just to get some sort of buy-in from the business owner, maybe.
I agree with that part.
Yeah,
At least
I agree
some
with
type of buy-in for the business.
Yeah, I think, like you're saying, if we're doing 50%, then that means, for them to maximize, then you're looking at a $5,000 project, which is much, is more than an awning in most cases. I guess, so let's look back at the people who have applied. So I think in the case of the awnings over on North Street, he didn't even really know about the program. So that would have been one where he would have accepted his, whatever amount we would have given him. So that's fine. CJ's and to your point, the Barking Pumpkins both would have fallen within that category of the 25% match. So then it's just a question of whether Buford's would have done it if they had to put up 500, right? Of their 2,000. Margaret, what do you think? Do you think?
No, I don't think she would have done it.
Okay.
Well, her intention wasn't to come in at the full $2,500. Her intention was to get a new sign. But I don't know, maybe she would have. It feels like especially for people who are putting, like getting bang for their buck, so they're gonna invest a smaller amount. And then still want reimbursement. Somebody may be able to do one heck of a facade improvement for like $1,500. And then what are you gonna ask for them? You know, they're gonna do it for 1,500. They're probably gonna do better than a lot of things. And then we're gonna say, but we're only gonna pay you 1,000, or we're only gonna reimburse you or match your up to 1,000, match up to a 50, whatever the number is. I think that's kind of one of the things that we need to think about with this. You know, yeah, I mean, obviously the goal is to get people to make an investment into improving their businesses and getting things looking nicer. But I worry about some of the smaller projects and what it would do for somebody who's like, all right, I can go through all these hoops to get 1,000 back on my 1,500. Is it really worth it to me to do that? I'm not sure.
I
So I
guess
think that, yeah, we've kind of got two, maybe three kind of ranges of projects here. Something like what Barking Pumpkins did, or whatever Barking Pumpkins did, where they spent $27,000, 28 in the end, with all the fees and things like that. And they've asked for matching back, or you get the smaller 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 projects that maybe we need to treat those a little bit differently. Same but different. Makes sense?
I think, well, just so I follow your thought process, Margaret, you're saying that, you know, if someone does a $1,500 project, they would be willing to go after reimbursement if they're gonna get the full 1,500 back, but if they're only getting 1,100 back, you don't think that they will?
No, because you've got to fill out the applications, you got to potentially file for permits, you've got to there's a lot of steps involved that may not be worth their time.
Okay. So like
That's my only, I mean, with Margaret, she had to have an inspection done, she had to have, you know, she had to fill out the application, you had to provide the pictures. You know, I know there was some work grabbing some of the documentation. It's trying to figure out, and maybe it's worth asking Margaret again. I mean, it's worth asking what's the kind of the tipping point for whether it's worth it to them.
I mean, we're not gonna vote on any changes today, so I wonder, yeah, if Margaret, if you have a conversation with her, it'd be interesting to hear, you know, her thoughts there. You know, whether that would have made a difference, because I think that would certainly drive it. And I think, Sierra, if you're having conversations with any other businesses about the program, mention it to them, just say, you know, look, we're contemplating a change to the rules to include a matching component. Would that change your usage, you know? I think that would be interesting as well. Or I'm happy to, if someone talks to you about it, I'm happy to talk to them too, you know, and then ask for their opinion there. So yeah,
Could I do maybe like a handoff where I introduce maybe someone to the person from Barking Pumpkins from this, and someone to CJ's Laundromat, and you guys have that deep dive discussion with them?
well, in those two, it wouldn't.
I mean, once we've asked more.
I mean, this potential change, like what seems to be contemplating is like a 25%, you know, 25% of the project needs to be put up by the business owner. In both of those situations, they've achieved that, you know, in both CJ's Laundromat and in Barking Pumpkin. So in their case, nothing would have changed, you know, they would have continued on.
So it's Margaret and Richard Fox.
Yeah, and even Richard Fox didn't even know about the program. You know, so it wouldn't have mattered to him. So it's really Margaret, I think, is number one. But if there's anybody else that's currently in the pipeline thinking about it, like we've talked about, that boutique on things. Angelique. Yeah, like if you know, if that changes hers, again, she's doing it already, you know, but if that would be a discussion, whether that would, you know, change anything for her if we were to change the program.
I still think it'd be a good idea though to get the perspectives of the laundromat and the two that have already been done, just because they've already done it, yeah, but you know, we can still ask them in retrospect, like, would you have done this if we had a different policy for that? Like, do you think it would have been worth it, especially considering how large one of the projects were and how kind of closer to that limit the other projects were? You got like Margaret said, we have both sides of that spectrum. So it'd be good to see their perspective from a larger project if they would have done it, and from a smaller project if they would have done it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I think it still would have been valuable to get their perspective on it, even though they've already done it.
Yeah, that's fine. I actually know Marriott, so I can just talk to Marriott.
Perfect,
Yeah.
alright.
The next change that we've talked about before is changing the definition of the facade.
Mhm.
As it stands right now, we put in parentheses the frontage of the property along a public street. Especially because of the riverfront potential project. We've talked about changing that from the frontage of the property along a public street to like maybe a portion of the property viewable from the public street, as opposed to only focusing on the front of the property as long as it's visible from the street. Again, riverfront was the one that really brought this up. As a reminder, they have an awning on the side of their building, which is very, very visible. If you're going north on Thames Street, it's huge on the side of their building, but because it isn't on the front of their building, trying to rehabilitate that didn't fall under this grant. And so the idea is, that would still be a great improvement. We want them to be eligible for this type of reimbursement, but how do we change the wording in order to allow for that?
I like your language of the frontage viewable along a public street. I mean, I think it's just as simple as that.
Changing it to viewable, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I think we're all in agreement that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sierra, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a soft cost proposal by somebody that we had to turn down because it didn't fit into the soft cost? It was like permits or something like that, like environmental.
Oh, Ledgely Health District, their fees that they charge them for setting stuff up.
Yeah, so that's one that we have to figure out. So business soft costs, this was Supreme.
Question, I'm sorry, I was writing to make sure I had
Oh.
captured our notes.
Yeah.
It's fast out here, sorry. Frontage viewable along the public street.
Well, does the term frontage mean the front of the property?
I would even say like property viewable from the side of the street.
What do
Yeah.
they,
We have property viewable, yeah, I think that makes sense, property viewable from the public street.
Can't you viewable property? from the public?
Well, like the back,
You can't
you
see
can't see the back or.
So
you could be explicit and say, yeah, the portion of the building that is viewable.
Yeah, there we go.
From
Portion of the building viewable from the public street. Alright. So then,
Ledgely Health.
yeah, so soft costs, so if you look at the listing of the soft costs that are eligible, I mean, some of these are specific to establishing a business here. And I think we did have one, which was Alpha Auto, we helped with their legal fees. But one fee that we have to, decide whether, I think they call it a permit, so it's a question of whether we wanna go down the road of permits, but it's from Ledgely Health District. I think it was Supreme Hot Dogs, right? That was,
It's Angelique.
oh, it was Angelique, oh, okay, it was Angelique who wanted to potentially apply for that soft cost, but that, it's a question of, do we go down, like, and it's necessary for them to establish a business here. I would assume that we would include the permitting costs in the, minor facade improvement, if that was part of the project total, is that? Is that part of it? Do we?
So it looks like we don't include any of the fees that would be paid to a government entity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're not paying their permit fees to the city of Groton. We're not paying any kind of utility. And I would put Ledge Light under that. And so maybe we need an out of scope soft costs. Just to be very, like, we're not going to, the city's not going to reimburse itself for fees that are paid to the city.
right.
I wouldn't think.
I mean, it does say other fees deemed necessary for business opening or expanding and pre-approved. So that, we do have that catch-all in there.
Yeah, but do we want to exclude those that would be paid to a government entity such as the city of Groton, Groton Utilities, or Ledge Light Health District?
I think
Because they have to pay permits for. They have to pay for all the permits.
I think if that is like the direction we wanna go, is like we're not paying permits for government agencies, like, I feel like that should be an explicit. But explicitly, right?
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely.
yeah, with this excludes payments made to government agencies or something like that.
What municipal,
It does say ineligible costs, yeah, permit fees, utility payments, so I wonder if we should say permit fees paid to.
oh, there we
government
go.
entities.
But my pushback would be, why do we wanna cover Ledge Light's permit fee?
I think we're saying that we shouldn't cover,
We should not.
we should not, I think we
Should
made
put
the
it right
decision
there
that we should
under
not.
the utility.
So should we make permit fees more explicit and say municipal or health district permit fees or whatever, you know, any kind of municipal or government permit fee?
Yeah, maybe, you know, municipal and government entity permit fees.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would be the word in there, Shira, under ineligible costs.
Got to scroll down.
Oh, one of the other things is it this minor facade improvement, you need to be in the TIF district?
I think both of our programs are, you gotta be in the TIF district. Well, actually, no, yeah, it's for the minor facade improvement, sorry.
Can you expand the definition of that?
Yeah, I mean, it says exceptions may be made in transitional areas, but I think we talked about it being, you know, most of the city of Groton that, you know, we have these businesses in is in a TIF area, but
There's a handful of them that are.
that aren't, you know, do we just make it, is there a reason why we made it that and not just the city of Groton?
I believe at first there was a little bit of a hesitancy for the program, especially for the minor facade, since. I mean, business soft costs, that was kind of already established and everybody was in agreement with that. The minor facade ruffled feathers, so they wanted it in a focused area. At first, with the option of expanding it, based off of our judgment.
Yeah, I would say 3 square miles in the city of Groton is pretty focused. But, yeah, I mean, what's the feeling of the commissioners? I mean, do we? I feel like with this wording, we are, it's almost like we're excluding the few businesses that aren't in the TIF as opposed to trying to be more inclusive. I mean, I would say just to eliminate the TIF part of that and just making it property must be located within the city of Groton.
And there's really only a handful of businesses that impact, so it's Par4 and then like Plaza, I've been corner of it in a minute,
Yeah, but
point that are out.
both of those should be eligible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to exclude either of those businesses from being eligible for this, so. Yeah, how do we feel about eliminating that TIF element? Yeah, okay.
So I just have a
Fine.
question, if it's kind of unrelated though. Sarah, do we specifically do anything with the TIF? Does the city do anything with the TIF beyond like? What does the city do with that?
So our commission is the TIF advisory commission, but as of right now, we have not had any project. Well, actually, we've had a few developers say that they were interested. So we're starting a discussion of how that's going to truly be administered because our TIF is a joint TIF. So there is a entire process where it has to get approved through us, and then we also have to run through a town process to get it approved. So staff is trying to really figure out what that means and what that process truly is. And then also with the funding of it, how can we actually start to utilize it towards projects? We've had 2 developers or local property owners interested to see if it could be used, but the balance, from my understanding, the balance in the account right now is pretty low. So it needs a couple of years to kind of build itself up before it can really be viable, but I will definitely keep you guys posted on that as it.
The only other piece that I was wondering about, and you know, this is. I don't, again, I just wanna talk about, do we want any of the minor facade improvement items do we wanna make them permanent? And the only reason I'm asking is, you could apply for like, it says just landscaping, but I mean, are we? Like if someone just plants flowers, you know, is that something that we want to cover? As opposed to a more permanent, like making a new walkway, which is technically landscaping or something like that, or. I don't know, I don't know if we wanna get that
Or if
far.
it's landscape and be a little bit more detailed, where it's like if you're installing pollinate, like
Right,
actual
like you're-
shrubs
like a
and-
shrub that's more permanent as opposed to an annual, you know, a
Yeah.
flower bed that costs, like a landscaper comes in $1,500. And they, you know, they're eligible every 12 months, you know, that's a great way to have your landscaping paid for. You know, not necessarily in the spirit, not that this has come up. But it's just something that I thought about, like, you know, it says landscaping and, you know, I don't know what that. Is that just on us to, you know, have a conversation, but, you know, it technically falls within the rules, do we wanna? I don't know, what does everyone feel about that?
I guess it would depend on the scope of the landscaping. I mean, if they're. I mean, it's a tough one. I think it's one that we would wanna just evaluate as they came in. I mean, if somebody's just gonna plant flowers, they're gonna spend a couple $100 and be on their way. This process wouldn't be worth their time and effort.
Yeah, I would hope so, yeah, that's a good point.
I would
But if
just,
somebody's gonna spend a couple $1,000, like redoing a walkway or building a wall or doing, you know, really overhauling the front of their building. Or
I would
any side that's exposed to the public street. Then yeah, it might be, it's tough.
my only concern would be that like, we don't want someone to kind of start that process and then come to us. And say, hey, I've done this floral work or whatever, landscaping job, and us to decide, oh, that really doesn't match the scope that we're looking at. So I think like we probably should change the language to be a bit more specific of what, like a large landscaping job or something like that. Just so someone doesn't come under the impression that we'll reimburse them for that payment. So like $500 that they spend, and we have to turn them down despite them going through the process. I just would want to avoid that in the future, if it even happens.
I wonder if another way to potentially avoid, because the only problem becomes the language, right? Like, how do you
Yeah.
define what that is, you know? That's the only other piece, but I wonder if we can somewhere in here. Not that we need to make this process any more cumbersome, but to get like their scope of work that they plan to do. To have that come at least to you, Sierra, like to be reviewed. I don't know how you'd get that, you know, in as part of the process here, but you know, just because I think that what you're describing, Karen, could happen in multiple situations, you know, where they start a project thinking it falls under these rules. And then it comes up and it's like, well, actually it doesn't. Like, what if Riverfront didn't come to us before, you know, doing that awning, thinking that it would be reimbursed? You know, so I wonder if you're bringing up a bigger issue of, you know, do we need to make sure that this falls within the scope, which is what we did sort of like for Buford's, where we gave them the nod of like, this falls within the criteria of what we're looking for, but making that an actual step in the process. So that if someone is trying to plant flower beds, we can say, look, that is not going to fall under the rules. So I don't, you know, I wonder.
People come to me at all points of their project, so. Like I can't guarantee, so we wouldn't wanna do we don't wanna do like small beds, annual flowers or anything. I think we could just add like frontage landscaping and then maybe in parentheses or something needs to include perennial shrubs, like plants that are going to allow, like no annuals are allowed. Like ineligible, and that would kind of give, and if anything, they do have to do a sketch, so you have to give me a before picture, and then your sketch could be the map out of kind of where these shrubs or perennials are gonna go and what types of shrubs and perennials that they're gonna plant. So part of the requirement for that would be including a list of what plants there that we're paying their reimbursement for. Like if they do annuals, that's on them, but if
Right.
they're asking for a reimbursement for us, it needs to show. One, I guess in essence, then we're paying for the plants, if they show us proof of what plants that they give us, is that okay?
Yeah, I think so I think what you said with like the parentheses is probably a good addition to add to this, you know, that it must, you know, this. At the same time, landscaping could also mean things like walkways, rock paths, which don't include flowers, so. You know, it gets specific of, we can't say must include because they may not be dealing with flowers, but. Again, it's a very specific situation, but you know, it's.
If
Wording.
plants are a part of the reimbursement request, then they have to be perennials or something, but if there's any other landscaping, pretty flexible.
Yeah, I wonder if we put that not necessarily in like the first couple pages, but in those like really deep details that are in the back. You know, where we explain it all again, eligible costs, like maybe put it there. So that it's
Oh, I
not-
put it twice.
Okay.
I'm about to say, the attorney told me, put it twice.
Put it twice, okay.
Put it in
alright,
both,
so
put it in both spots, cause technically, what is it? What's this? The grant programs and the policy procedures are two separate documents, we just view them together. So I would wanna put them in both places. So is that addressing, if we change the verbiage, is that addressing the concern?
I think my concern's a little bit, but I wonder if the concern, the bigger concern that I just brought up, that can be alleviated when we market this, like where you just say. Anyone interested is urged to contact Sierra prior to starting the project, you know, or something like that, like it's just when we market it, we make sure like. When we say, you know, contact Sierra for more details, we say, you know, we just add that detail before you start the project.
But why would they have to contact me before they start the project?
In case it doesn't fall under these rules, right? You just don't want someone, like again, like I use Riverfront, like what if Riverfront didn't talk to you? They spent $5,000 to replace their awning and then came to us like, oh, you know, here's our full application, you know, ready to submit, we followed all the rules. And then we say, well, actually, you're not eligible.
But you can't have is there like an expectation that you're going to get the grant? Cause like for Richard Fox, he didn't even know, he already like,
But he didn't know the program
He-
existed, I'm saying
so
someone.
he was already
knows.
going to do that.
Yes, before he knew that the program existed, but I'm saying if someone's doing their project because they know this program exists. And then they, you know, and then they do it, and then they find out that they're not eligible. That's the issue that I'm worried about.
And I think we had talked a little bit about that, like when this conversation first started months ago. And so I'm wondering if maybe, because obviously this doesn't seem to be a step-by-step process for this, right? It's kind of just so long as you get the pieces together, right? Because we've gotten applications at different stages, correct? So I'm wondering if maybe we could not necessarily change a requirement, but maybe in marketing or something like that, be like, these are the steps you should take in such or such order. So maybe they come to see it, they contact Sierra first, or maybe even they send us, the committee, the application first, and then we say, okay, this looks good on our end, and then they can continue forward that way. So I don't know if we want to specify, like, these are the steps you should take in this order, just so no one gets wicked far ahead of themselves, and then like us or the committee of the whole or someone down the line says, actually, this doesn't fit what we're looking for.
I guess I'm hung up because you have to go through this process, but just because this grant is here and you may be like, okay, I'm going to do landscaping. I mean, you can't just assume that you're going to get the project, so you're gonna do your whole work and then submit it. I mean, there's no guarantee that you're gonna get the funding until you go through this application process. But you can do that at whatever point in time you are in. We just want them to come to us before they start doing anything.
Or at least like if they're interested in getting the grant, like come to us or something for further details or something like that. Just so nobody kind of misunderstands it and gets too far ahead of themselves. Because yeah, they can do it at any point, but we don't want someone to start the project under the assumption, like, yeah, people aren't gonna do that, but if someone does do that. You know, we have a very upset person on our hands because they were expecting us to give them the money, because it fit the description maybe on the paper. You know, they think it fits that description that we've written, but we don't think that. And so now it's an argument, not really an argument, but a conversation between us of like, okay, this is what we expected and this is what they expected.
I just don't wanna, yeah, I mean, it's what he's saying, I just don't want a situation where somehow this program, which is meant to just benefit business owners, turns into something negative. Because someone does a project thinking they think it falls under the category, and it's something that we're not thinking of, you know, the 5 of us right now aren't thinking of a project that a business owner could think falls under this project. You know, and the procedures, the first item of the procedure says complete the entire application and submit it to you, which would entail doing the project. And then, you know, at the bottom in bold, it says, you know, if you're thinking of applying, you should contact, you know, even just changing that, if you're thinking about a project that will, you know, eventually be submitted for reimbursement or for the grant, you know, to contact you before, you know, I think it's more just a. If someone doesn't, then that's up to them, but I think in this document, we should encourage that, just to prevent that from happening. So again, you know.
But we're
it's
not making it a requirement,
It's
we're
not a
making it an
requirement.
encouragement.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's an
Okay.
encouragement, yes.
So what was that section that you said that you're thinking of?
It's like right at the end, page 8. I think you may want to change the procedure to. You know, you don't necessarily have to go that far, but I definitely say in the bold, you say, please note. Any property or business owner thinking about applying, I would just change that to any property or business owner thinking about a project. That will be submitted for a grant or something like that, some wording like that should contact you before the project begins.
Okay. So change the link, so everybody's in agreement to change the link to that bullet point, but does it stay there or is it moving?
That's a good point.
I think where it is fine, just like at the bottom in bold, cause I think it would look odd anywhere else. But that's just design wise on that, like how people would read it, I feel like they would read down and then see the bold at the bottom. I think is fine how it is, I don't think we need to move it.
Plus you have please note for things.
It is bold.
Yeah.
Please note, so
Yeah.
you can't see
So
that.
let's do this.
No, I think that's pretty good, if they don't see it after that, then.
I mean, this isn't it's not a very, very long document, you know, if it's something that you're really worried about, you're gonna take the time to at least read the bold parts, you know?
Right, skim down, leave
Yeah.
it bold.
And perhaps from a marketing perspective, we can host kind of just like couple information sessions, especially when we move on this in the beginning of the year, to really encourage the businesses to come learn about it and something. So programming tidbit. All right.
All right. And I do have to run, but before, unless we can close it out at this point, I mean, is there anything else that anyone else has identified? I mean, we don't have to decide on it today, obviously, we're just gonna put some drafts.
Yeah, there was, one piece of feedback from Margaret, and that is that requiring attendance at a committee of the whole. Somebody may or may not always be able to do it, so we need to have kind of some. Where was it?
Realize that was a.
Yeah, it's something, we don't require them to come here, so the thought process was at some point in time, the business needed to come for a commission or a council, since council has the final vote to kind of give.
Mm-hmm. So I think we just need to say the person or an appropriate representative.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's fair, yeah.
What page is that on? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Where's that?
yeah, it's section 7, bullet C. It says applicants are required to attend the meeting. I think if we just say applicants, comma space, or a representative
Okay.
are required to attend the meeting. Because you had to go to the mayor, correct? To request permission for me to present instead of Margaret?
Yeah, just to make sure that that was okay.
Yep.
And the reason of why, which she was already aware of why she wasn't gonna go there.
Yeah.
Did you have another edit you wanted to bring up? 'Cause-
No, that's the primary one. That was feedback from Margaret.
So I had two that I wanted to just bring up. We do have a line in here on page 3 that says applications for work completed within the previous 6 months prior to the submission of a grant application can be considered for this program. I just wanted to talk about how we want to really do that moving forward. Do we just want to do it with projects within that fiscal year? Because depending on when it's complete, when different stuff, that 6 months thing is kind of. It's been a question mark for that. Not that we have to talk about tonight, but we can talk about it later. And then on page 9, if we could clarify what type of insurance policy or certificate we truly want the businesses to provide for us, because once again, these are projects that they're completing that we don't, that they're getting reimbursed for, so we're not really a part of that process, but we just want to talk through what does that requirement really look like?
This is on page 9.
Yeah,
I would say that, yeah, I think the 6 month. It's a pretty long, I think you can make that 3 months, and that's very reasonable, but I think it's gonna be a little too hard for us to put it in the fiscal year. I think if we do it 3 months, then that is probably a better chance of us getting it within the same fiscal year as the work being done. I don't necessarily think that 6 months is too much of an issue. I think we get the application, when we get the application, if we have room for it in that fiscal year, great. If we don't, and that's another reason for them to contact us before they do the project. Hey, we got 7 projects working right now, no guarantee that you're gonna get this money, that sort of thing. That's my thought. I don't know if anyone disagrees.
Could we put in a contingent that if they get it into us within like 1 or 2 months before the fiscal year ends, we can roll it into the next fiscal year potentially?
Well, as long as they submit this, as long as they submit it within 6 months, there's nothing in here that says we have to approve it
Oh,
within 6
yeah.
months. It just says we need to receive it. And so if we don't have money left in this fiscal year, I don't see anything in here that says we can't just hold it until the next fiscal year.
cause we don't have, it doesn't just roll over. So in
Right.
order for us, so like with Beaufort's, I had to have a meeting with the mayor and the finance director to approve them allowing that to roll over.
Yeah, I
Since
think
that was sent, and that was just like,
but I'm
the whole-
talking the other way around, like if we ran out of funds in one fiscal year and we had a completed application, we could just hold it until the next fiscal
Sure,
year.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more what the concern would be here, I
Okay.
believe,
Yeah.
that we
Yep.
run out.
And we talked about that.
alright, so 6 months not an issue, and then the insurance policy or certificate of insurance.
Was that from the attorney? They told you to put that in? That seems like a very attorney.
Yeah, I was gonna say it does, but then at the same time, it's kind of like, how is this enforceable, and then from your guys' perspective of how involved you want to be in this, just because, I mean, they're coming to us after the project is complete. We don't have anything.
I think I mean, the lawyer's putting that in there because we are giving the business owner funds for a project, and if something happens as a result of the project, someone could sue someone that sues the city of Groton. Like I can see the money, there's a connection with the money trail, so a lawyer I can see why they want it. How you get that, I really don't.
Yeah.
Have businesses struggled with getting that to us in the past?
Well, they should be, yeah, I think that the difference is like certificate of insurance, protecting the city from any loss. That's tougher than just I think.
So it's like insurance.
I think, yeah, I
Yeah.
think maybe we sort of take the middle, like just provide us with the fact that you have insurance. Like, you know, like, so maybe instead of protecting the city from any loss, liability or damage, just applicants must provide an insurance policy or certificate of insurance. At least they have insurance, you know, I think that's good enough, you know.
Alright then.
Okay.
So, I don't know if there are any other edits, but. We'll jump in. I'll incorporate these, and track changes and then share out so we can talk about this further, next meeting. And also the business, update one tonight. It always goes out. Days.
Okay.
Lots of content in there. There's even a public art program for any artists that are trying to do, which I wish, you know, well, I'm glad I like finished it, but their project would have been eligible for this grant. So if there's anybody else that you guys know that's interested in doing projects or something with an artist, there's that grant opportunity. It's about 2,000. And then Sector Rise, Women's Business Development Council. There's the recycling program that's still trying to find a redemption center operator here. And state is making a big push for international exports. They're building relations with Europe, so there are a number of events that are taking place around just trade and how to be a part of that business. If any of us are interested in that.
Just because I have to run, we'll turn it at 6:40.
Yeah, I gotta run too. Thank you very much.
Have a good one. Thank you
Bye,
guys for
Margaret.
coming in.
Yep. See you guys.
Bye.
Oh,
That's what money is.
before you.
Yeah, I love the moving your hair, by the way.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Nice to know what it is. How's everything in your world going?
It's going good. I actually. Hold on, sorry. I just got a job as a regional planner actually for NECOG.
Nice,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah, I started like 2 weeks ago, so I'm still in the training phase, but it's good. I actually have a zoning board meeting with Woodstock tomorrow night. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm running around the state doing commission meetings.
Okay, so I think not about saying, and they have to retrain,